Good evening and welcome. The August 16th, 2022 Liquor Board hearing is now in session. I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Praley for some announcements.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jimmy Praley. I serve as counsel to the board. At the beginning of every meeting, I make a few brief announcements. The first is that the commissioners before you tonight are part-time public servants. They each have other outside interests. When a commissioner or commissioners, as the case may be, knows that they have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict, they will recuse themselves. However, due to the number of cases that the board hears at every meeting, each commissioner cannot possibly know who may appear from the public on any given matter. So if your case is called and you believe that a commissioner or commissioners, as the case may be, has a conflict, you need to raise that at the beginning of your case and we'll address it appropriately. If not, the board will continue forward under the assumption that there is no conflict. Second, this board's rules and regulations provide that the chair, for the purposes of administrative and judicial economy, can have the board's counsel rule on the admissibility of evidence and objections if counsel are present and objections are made. Board handles many cases at each hearing, so this allows us to expedite the hearing. So if an objection is made, instead of the chairman turning to me advising the chairman, I'll simply make a ruling and my ruling will be that of the board. Finally, we are back in a virtual land. The board has adopted special rules and regulations as other jurisdictions have in the past. Those are available online. Pursuant to this board's rules and regulations, anybody who is wishing to be heard at the hearing, who's not a participant on any specific proceeding, including an applicant's case, needs to submit testimony to the board 5 days prior to the hearing date. That submitted writing will be automatically accepted as an exhibit in the applicable case. Other than that, while the public is welcome to view tonight's proceeding, individual members of the public are not going to be allowed to participate other than written testimony, which would have been previously submitted. Finally, because this is a virtual meeting, there will be no waiver of the reading. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Inspector Wayne Harris, who can call our first case. Inspector Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Praley. Our first case is Robinson Liquors LLC, Andre Nikolov, member, Ronald Breeden, authorized person. Inspector is David Kaufman. This is a new license at 466 Ritchie Highway, Severna Park, Maryland, 21146. It's a Class A for beer, wine, and liquor, beer, wine, and spirits, tasting, growlers, crawlers, and Sunday license. This is a decision to be made on the record today. I believe nobody's testifying. Is that correct, Mr. Praley?
Yeah, that's correct, Inspector Harris. Thank you for calling the case. This is, in fact, just a decision on the record. The board has sat through 2 hearings on this. At this point, I would turn it over to Mr. Maloney for some thoughts and comments and the board's deliberation and ultimate decision. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Praley. The board has reviewed hours and hundreds of pages of testimony, as well as multiple documents submitted by both the applicant and the opposition. The board is ready to make a determination. But first of all, I want to address the Maryland Code 4206, the limitations on retail floor space that stores over 10,000 square feet, which is somewhat of a narrow scope, that the license would not adversely affect the orderly distribution of alcohol in the state of Maryland. So the state looked at that, and the report by Jeff Kelly of the Controller's Office and the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission was received. There's been an argument concerning whether the board, that's us, can rely on the report submitted, as it does not come directly from the controller. This board will rely on the representation of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, that is the successor of the Office of the Controller in these matters, and concerning regulations by the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to conduct the study required. So that gives us Maryland Code 42010, which is the factors for approval or denial of a liquor license. And number one would be public need. And we've had both surveys on both sides, for and against, that were considered. Testimony from people who attended the hearings, for and against. Many more on the against side were considered as well. We looked at the number of locations of existing businesses, and we considered license class A, B, C, and D. Excuse me, A, B, and D were considered. All off-sale licenses. We looked at the 5-mile, 10-mile radius, as well as the 5-minute, 10-minute radius that was also presented. The other factor is the potential effect on existing business, which I will get into in a minute. The potential commonality or uniqueness we also looked at and considered. And the impact on safety, health, welfare, including traffic and parking, was also part of the consideration and part of the criteria that we need to look at. I believe the said license will have a negative impact on the existing license holders, as well as the safety and welfare of the community. Robinson Liquors, the size, scope, purchasing power, put the existing license holders at risk. In addition, the store would have to generate an astronomical dollar amount per week to survive. That dollar amount would come would come largely from the existing licenses and not necessarily from outside the area. This area is also a neighborhood shopping center, not a regional one. Increase in traffic on already failed intersection would negatively impact the small town feeling and atmosphere. At this time, I would make a motion that we deny the application, and I ask for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion.
The motion is seconded and open for general discussion if necessary. And I'll turn it over to either commissioner if you have any comments in addition to that.
Commissioner Snoops, I would just concur with Commissioner Maloney that basically that size store will put all the existing license holders in jeopardy and put the community in jeopardy to have such a large draw to a small local shopping center. So.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I concur with both.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, I ask for a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you.
And Chief Inspector Harris, before you call the next case, I would just like to note for those watching, we will issue a formal written opinion as well in conjunction with this. So that should be forthcoming in the next couple days, and that will be sent to all parties involved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fraley. All right, next case to be called would be Mi Concita Incorporated, David W. Reese, Vice President, Hilario Andrade, President. The inspector is Liam Benton. This is a transfer. Currently, Mary Teresa Reese, Vice President on behalf of Mi Concita Incorporated, trading as Mi Concita, 1334 Defense Highway, Suite I, Gambrels, Maryland, 21054. This is a Class H license, beer, wine, and liquor, with music and Sunday license privileges. There is restrictions, and they are as follows. On June 22nd, 2007, no dance floor, bandstand, or games of chance. All alcoholic beverage must be served in conjunction with a meal except at the bar of, except at the bar of 6 seats. Sales must be 51% food versus 49% alcoholic beverages, piped in music only. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand to come forward.
Mr. Gardner, do you have anybody present with you tonight?
Yes, on a separate Zoom link.
Yeah, they did. I have both licensees did register, but I'm not seeing them in the audience to be able to promote them to a panelist.
I apologize.
Sorry, you want to give him a quick call and see if you can get him on here?
Yes, I guess what you're saying is,
They
all
did
right,
register.
they're calling me. Bear with me. Hello, Vicky.
All right, I'm promoting Vicky.
Okay, now, Vicky, Mr. Aronson, who's handling the Zoom, is apparently now able to promote you as a panelist, which is what he did with me. And you have everybody else with you, correct?
Yeah.
Now I see your name on the screen.
Okay, I didn't know that information, so.
No problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, Don, if Vicky Benatti was gracious enough to arrange for the separate registration since I couldn't appear with everyone else, you know, because of my COVID situation. So I apologize for the inconvenience.
Okay, Mrs. Benatti, there you go. You're off of mute now.
There we go.
Okay, very good. All right,
There we
Vicky,
are.
I'm hanging up.
Okay,
Okay.
sir, thank you.
Anyone wishing to testify, raise your right hand, please, so we can see you. If you plan on speaking, raise your right hand. Is there anyone else in the room besides you two gentlemen?
Only myself by means of a proffer, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Chair,
thank you.
or Mr. Harris.
All right. The oath is as follows.
What about Vicky?
All right,
Yes, I'm here as
Okay,
well, and
that's fine.
Kathy's here as well.
all right, I see
So raise
4
your right
people.
hand.
Okay, do you all solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah,
Please,
I do.
please answer.
I do.
Okay, I'm going to ask each one of you one at a time to give us your name and address for the record. You can put your hands down.
My name is John Gardner. I'm counsel for the Mi Casita Inc. and the applicants. Last name spelled Gardner.
Okay, thank you. Ladies, would you like to go next? Give us your name and address for the record if you're going to testify.
I will be making proffers on behalf of the applicants with the board's permission.
That's understood, Mr. Gardner. I appreciate it. We still need their name and address for the record, and then we can turn it over to you. Ma'am,
Understood.
we're having a tough time hearing you. Can you get closer to the microphone?
Miss Catalina Monteverde. I'm one of the owners of Mi Casita.
Okay,
My
you're-
address is
yep.
2522 Cheyenne Drive, Gambrills, Maryland.
Okay, great. And then the gentlemen who are going to testify, if we could get their names and addresses as well, please.
My name is Donald Wayne Reese, R-I-E-S. I'm at 2018 Norman Road, Glen Burnie.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Hi, my name is Hilario Andrade. My address is 2417 Midtown Drive in Gambrills, Maryland.
Okay, great. And that's everybody who's planning on testifying? Okay. Mr. Gardner, at this point, I'll turn it over to you. You can present your client's case by way of proffer or testimony or a combination of both, but the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Fraley. The two applicants on this application for transfer, of course, are Donald Reese and Hilario Andrade, pursuant to the amended application that was filed. I would first refer to the exhibits that I submitted early last week to the board by email on August 9th, and then in a hard copy form on Wednesday, August 10. There's 16 exhibits in there with and they are all labeled consecutively, and there's a list identifying each one of the exhibits. It's dated August 9th, 2022. I would, and they consist of the application, the amended application, and the various corporate documents required pursuant to the application. The circumstances surrounding this application originated, of course, with the death of the former licensee, who's now deceased, Mary Teresa Reese, who had been on that license for a number of years. She is the deceased spouse of Donald Reese, who's with us with the board today. And so I'd point that out, and her death certificate is contained in there. Before I go further, I would ask for the admission by the board of these 16 exhibits into evidence.
Yes, the documents that you've submitted, Mr. Garner, would be admitted as evidence.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fraley. As I was saying a moment ago about Donald Reese, he is applying to replace Mary Teresa Reese on the license. Both of them have known the restaurant for many years, originally as customers of the restaurant, and became friends with the management of the restaurant. The restaurant's been in existence since 2007, as referred to by Chief Inspector Harris on the data restriction, but it's been in continued existence then. And Donald Reese is, while he's not involved in the day-to-day operation of the business, he is familiar with the restaurant based on his personal contact with management and personal contact with the restaurant and being a customer initially, or actually all throughout. And so he is that applicant asking to replace his wife on the application. The second applicant is Hilario Andrade. You've been introduced to Mr. Andrade tonight, and you were also introduced to one of the stockholders, Catalina Landaverde. Mr. Andrade is Ms. Landaverde's younger brother, and he has come into the United States, been here continuously since 2013. He is on a permanent resident status at this time since 2019. He has been exclusively employed since 2013 at Mi Casita restaurant. First, doing busing and working in the kitchen, and then eventually, as time went on, he's graduated into other operations of the business, including the service of alcoholic beverages. And there is already an alcohol awareness certificate for him that's on file, as it is for Donald Reese. That's already been submitted to the board. But he is another family member who is now 9 years in, familiar with the restaurant, and he wants to continue in that service. The amended or the stockholders resolution that was submitted about 6 weeks ago at the beginning of July does have him listed under the resolution, the corporate resolution, as the president, with Donald Reese serving as one of the vice presidents. So they are both officers of the corporation. As I say, it's a family business. Both of these individuals are very familiar with the business, and Mr. Andrade, of course, with the intimate operational side of it. He desires to continue in that. And I would, if there's any questions the board has at this point, of either one of them, I would certainly defer to the commission to ask them questions if I haven't answered them already.
All right, Mr. Gardner, thanks. We'll turn it over to the board members and see if there are any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just curious about the 16 documents that were sent sometime this month.
Yes, sir.
Certainly is not part of my package. Do some of the other commissioners have that?
Mr. Chairman, it was, you had picked up your packet beforehand, so I had put it in your bin. You did pick them up.
I've got them.
At one point. It was just, he had to amend the corporate documents.
Yeah, my understanding, Mr. Chairman, is it was just an amendment of corporate docs clarifying who the stockholders and the officers are.
That's correct. That was done at the beginning of July, and there were and that became part of the exhibit list. I had originally submitted at the beginning of July, but it's part of the exhibit list that was submitted early last week.
Okay, I do have them here. Okay, thank you.
Certainly, certainly.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Mr. Gardner or his clients?
Yes. My normal question would be, I don't see in my package menu. I understand that you will be serving Latin food, and I just want to know if you are part of the community in reference to fundraising for the community, how you'll be active within the community. And that might be directed to one of the owners. In reference to the question, a better way of phrasing it is, are you active in the community as a whole, your involvement in the community as a fundraiser?
In terms of fundraising, I don't know. Ms. Landaverde, Catalina Landaverde, would you be able to help answer that question? I think the essential question Commissioner Duffy was asking was what activities in terms of community involvement does this restaurant have?
Well, we do fundraising for schools or church.
Okay, so you will be active within the community in and of itself, assisting other organizations such as churches, schools, other fundraising within the community. You'll be an access to the community, in other words.
Would you be active in the community, Ms. Landaverde, through the restaurant?
You know, we do like gift certificates. We do like specials for you know, one specific day they come and we give like a percentage, like 15%. And all that goes to, but not included alcohol, just the food. That all that goes to the schools or churches.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
I have no questions.
All right, with noted.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the transfer for Mika Sia, and I ask for a second.
I second the motion to approve.
Motion is seconded. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. So good luck. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Maloney and Commissioner Duffy and Commissioner Snoops, and I appreciate your time. Mr. Praley, as always, thank you to you. And as well, this was another one of those transfers that I inherited and from Mr. Rouse after he passed away, and I wanted to finish, get this one completed, and I'm just thankful to the board for its help in doing so.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone's excused.
you.
Calling the next case.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case is Arundel Mills Wine and Spirit, A&J Shaw Group, LLC. Jatendra Shaw, member. A. Sheikh, member. Jadeep Rajanath, clerk. Detective Sapita, number 1239. Detective T. Middleton, number 1061. And Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. Excuse me. These are violations of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors. Reference Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-716769 by Detective Sapita, number 1239, Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. Incident was dated May 14th, 2022. Next violation is a violation of the Alcoholic Beverage 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverage to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-716769 by Detective Sapita, number 1239, Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. Incident dated May 14th of 2022. This is a Class A license for beer, wine, and liquor, which includes wine tasting and Sunday license privileges. Located at 7645 Arundel Mills Road, Unit 20, Hanover, Maryland, 21076. There is a restriction dated 6/2/2006. Says the hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Friday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Anyone wishing to testify, please raise your right hand.
Mr. Pitcher, did you call your licensees? Because I still do not see them. They're not under the names that I have them as registered. And if they have registered,
spoke to both of them, and they are on.
All right, can they raise their hand so I can see at the bottom of the screen? Okay.
I see the detectives, but I don't see anybody else. Mr. Pitcher, do your people have video?
Two of them registered under J.D. Patel, so I'm bringing both of those in. I was looking for a Mr. Shaw and Mr. Sheik.
Jaydeep is the clerk, and Mr. Harsh Patel is the sort of acting licensee. We'll get into that, but
he's on the attendee list. Harsha.
Harsha.
There's okay. I didn't have that.
Who else?
Okay, if everybody could unmute so we could figure out if this is, everybody is.
Mr. Patel, you're on mute. Can you release that? Mr. Shaw?
I got it. There we go. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. Sorry.
Let's see. Mr. Patel? Mr. Tell, can you unmute, sir?
There we go.
Okay, I see you now. All right. Everybody raise their right hands, please. Okay, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
I do. I do.
Okay. Please state your name and addresses for the records. We'll start with the detectives.
Detective James Mountcastle, ID 1155, assigned Anne Arundel County Police Department, currently assigned Criminal Investigation Division.
Thank you.
Detective Thomas Middleton, ID 1061, assigned to Western District.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Detective
Shaw.
Charles Cepeda, Western
Harsh
District, Anne Arundel
Shaw.
County.
21301 Dennett Estates Drive, Brookville, Maryland, 20833.
Okay, very good. We got you, Mr. Cepeda, Detective Cepeda. Mr. Patel, name and address.
Jaydeep Patel. I am in 7645 Arundel Boulevard, Hanover, 21061.
You okay, Ed, with those? All right. Okay, Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you, Inspector Harris. Detective, I don't know which one of you is on for the first one, but if you could read the your statement of facts in the record, please.
Detective Mountcastle, Anne Arundel County Police.
Thank you, Detective.
On 5/14/2022 at approximately 17:25 hours, Detective Cepeda, 1239, Detective Middleton, 1061, and myself were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 20 years of age, subject to enter Arundel Mills Wine and Spirits, located at 645 Unit 21 Arundel Mills Boulevard in Hanover, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store and picked out an 18-pack of Miller Lite beer and took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Miller Lite beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification. The CS exited the business and immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that Miller Lite beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda, Middleton, and myself entered the store and identified ourselves as police and identified the clerk as Jaydeep Patel. And it was his middle name is RAJNIKANT. Date of birth of 1/9/2000. That was via his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Patel was upset and stated he usually cards everybody. He advised that he had been working there since May 1st, 2022, and has not had the alcohol awareness training. A photograph of Mr. Patel was taken and of his identification. A photo was taken of the Miller Lite beer, and then it was destroyed. A copy of the Anne Arundel County liquor license was taken, and a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. That would be their report.
Okay, thank you, Detective. Mr. Pitcher, do you have any questions from the detective based on this report?
One or two, if I might, Mr. Fraley.
Sure.
Detective, you said that this was about 5:45 p.m. rush hour.
About 5:25, yes, sir.
And would you say it was a busy time in the store at that time?
I do not recall how busy it was in the store at this point. Yeah.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Let's see if the board has any questions. Mr. Chairman.
No questions for the police.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No question.
All right, Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Mr. Pitcher, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your case by way of proffer testimony, but we'll turn it over to you in mitigation, okay?
Thank you very much. And thank you all to the board for your indulgence. This is one of those cases where, first off, let me just say up front, we're pleading guilty that he sold the packaged goods to a person without asking for ID. But as in many cases, there are extenuating circumstances here, which I would like to elucidate for the board, let you know a little bit about what's going on here, and that might explain why we think and hope that you will go a little easy on them at this point. First off, as the licensee, Harsh Shaw, is the son of the former licensee who had just passed away back at the end of last year. And he doesn't work in this business, or didn't intend to at that time, and this was sort of left in the lurch, trying to run the business, train employees, etc. after his father passed away. Mr. Shaw is currently trying to sell the business and is in the process of doing so. In fact, I think the potential buyers have even asked for a transfer or requested filed an application for transfer. So they were in the middle of this transition back in the spring, trying to figure out how to do this. And Mr. Patel, the clerk, had just started. He's 22 years old, had just started working there, and had not even had time to finish having his certification finalized for alcohol awareness. I have a copy of it here. I believe you probably have a copy in your files, but the incident occurred here May the 14th. His certification was awarded on June the 4th. So 3 weeks later, he finally got certified and was trained in how to ID people and that sort of thing. Be that as it may, Mr. Shah had told Mr. Patel that anybody that comes in here to buy any alcoholic beverage, you must ask for ID. And as he said to the police officers at the time, and he told me the same thing the first time I met with him, he makes it a point to always ask. For whatever reason, he did not, on this occasion, ask for the ID. He says that it was a little busy. It's, the rush hour just before dinner time, people going home. And there were two registers going at the time, I believe, he and one other. His father, who is the general manager of the store, was not there at the time. So all of these factors sort of in a confluence of a problem here, that he missed it, and he just did not ask for the ID. He has never done this before, so he's very upset about it. With that, we'll rest and be happy to offer up either Mr. Patel or Mr. Shah questions by you, Mr. Praley, or the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I will make a point that this is the second offense in less than 4 years. I'll just make that point. They've owned the store, I believe, for about 7 years. So
right.
I'm just going
to understand there was one in
it was in November of 2018, pre-COVID, right. And just want to make that for the record. So no other questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Pitcher, anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board for a deliberation and a decision?
No, other than that, we just hope that you'll take into account that this is one of those situations where the intent was certainly not there to try to get by the minors' law, and we hope that, given the fact that they're trying to execute a sale here and a transfer of the license, we hope that that won't impinge on, this case impinge on that ability.
What?
It went out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Pitcher. If you could get a little closer to your microphone, you faded out a little bit there.
Harsh, did you have something that you were trying to say?
No, they couldn't hear what you were saying. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. We just, I think that what I was just trying to make the point that, yes, there was a prior. It didn't involve these particular actors here. Mr. Stewart's father was the licensee at that time.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pitcher. At this point, we'll turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to impose a fine, if you would, for the offense of $350 per count, in addition to whatever the court costs would be. And I'm asking for a second.
I second the motion.
The motion is second. Any additional comments or with regard to the commission? I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Getting ready to call the next case. Everyone's excused. Thank you. Next case is Crazy Crab, KJ USA Inc. Young Quinn Lai, President. Young Tae Min, Vice President. Equala L. Price, bartender. Charity Manley, manager. Detective T. Middleton, number 1061. Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. The liquor inspector is Anthony Harmon. This is a Class 8 beer, wine, and liquor license with entertainment and Sunday license privileges located at 6 Nursery Road, Linthicum, Maryland, 21090. Violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 401, minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-722053 by Detective Middleton and Detective Mountcastle, who's number 1155. The incident was dated June 22nd, 2022. The second violation is a violation of the alcoholic beverages. Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individuals under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-722-053 by Detective Mountcastle, 1155, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident dated June 23rd of 2022. Anyone wishing to testify, please raise your right hands.
I have a question. I spoke to a John Westcott this afternoon, and he said he was going to be with everyone from the Crazy Crab restaurant, but I do not see him online. He is not logged in. Okay, so you're there under Crazy Crab. Are the licensees there with you?
Yes, it's myself and Charity
Manley.
Okay, all right, terrific. Thank you.
Okay, please raise your right hands. You solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name and addresses. For the record, we'll start with the detectives.
Detective Mountcastle, ID 1155, Anne Arundel County Police, currently assigned to Criminal Investigation Division.
Thank you.
Detective Thomas Middleton, ID number 1061, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Thank you.
John Westcott, 870 Washington Boulevard, Baltimore, Maryland.
Charity Manley, 106 Hidden Hill Circle, Odenton, Maryland, 21113.
Okay, and we have Detective Charles Cepeda also with us, correct? Okay, evidently not. All right, Mr. Praley, I believe that's
all right.
I have a concern. Are the licensees from the license there?
That was going to be my next question, Mr. Aronson. Thanks for bringing that up. Do we have any of the licenses? Neither of the two of you are on the liquor license, are you?
Yes, we're from. I'm on there. You're on there too, correct? The new one. Yes.
For Crazy Crab at the
805 Aquahart Road.
Okay, I have. Let's see. We have a Mary Privens and a Jung Lee.
And also me, I'm the license on the license.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's Kenny.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, did you raise your right hand and take the oath?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Lee.
Yeah, that's Mr. Lee, Eddie. He's a licensee.
Okay, what about Mary Privens?
Mary Privens is she's also licensed, but she's not here.
I don't believe she got a summons, Eddie.
She did.
Did she?
I can check, but I don't know why she wouldn't have. All right, go ahead. I'll check on that.
I could be wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. But anyways, Detective, whoever is responsible for this report, if you don't mind giving us your statement of facts, please.
Detective James Mountcastle, ID 1155. On 6/22/22 at approximately 15:20 hours, Detective Middleton and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses and restaurants. We directed a confidential source, 20 years of age, to enter the Crazy Crab restaurant at 805 Aquahart Road in Glen Burnie, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the restaurant. The confidential source went to the restaurant and sat at the bar. The confidential source asked the bartender for a Bud Light beer. The bartender did not ask the confidential source for identification and served the confidential source the Bud Light beer sitting at the bar. We entered the restaurant and observed the confidential source sitting at the bar with the Bud Light beer directly in front of him. The confidential source got up at this point and exited the restaurant. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience, and I know through my training, knowledge, and experience, that a Bud Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I went into the restaurant and identified ourselves as police to the bartender, and she was identified as Aquila LaShawn Price, date of birth of 5/14/89 via her Maryland driver's license. Miss Price was upset and stated she was trying to get one of the servers margaritas made and was distracted, and she should have carded him. She advised that she has been working as a bartender for 3 days and has had the alcohol awareness training. The restaurant manager was identified as Sherdy Manley, and she was advised of the incident. A photograph was taken of Price and her identification. A photograph was taken of the Bud Light beer and the receipt. It was paid for with official Anne Arundel County funds. A photo was taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license hanging on the wall. A copy of this report was forwarded to the liquor board, and a note that everyone was extremely cooperative at the scene.
All right, thank you, Detective. Now, this is the opportunity for the licensees to ask any questions of the detectives based on that report. Do you have any questions? Is that a no? No questions?
No.
Okay, gotcha. Then we'll turn it over to the board to see if there are any questions. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Now, at this point, we'll turn it over to the licensees, and you can present your case to the board in mitigation. So you can call witnesses, you can proffer your case, but we'll turn it over to you at this point. Do you all have anything that you want to say to the board that you want to address?
Yeah, so this is our first offense. We're new restaurant, newish. We've only been operating for about a year. After this, we're taking this matter very seriously. So we made a 7 step program to kind of alleviate this from happening again. Every single bartender and employee will have to do the alcohol awareness, the legal drinking age. We have a post up around the bar everywhere now. We ID everyone regardless how old they appear. We're getting a ID scanner for the authenticity of the card. We have off-duty police officers that are here on the weekends on our busier days. So they're going to be doing a lot of the handling of the ID just to make sure it doesn't happen. And after 6 p.m., no patrons, even at the tables, will be allowed on the bar side. So
Under 21.
Yeah, under 21. So yeah, we take this matter very seriously. It's our first offense. We do have a question as far as if we do all these steps and the bartenders are all tip certified, if they make a mistake, is it on us or is it on the bartender individually?
So with this really isn't the opportunity for you to ask questions of the board.
Okay.
It's your opportunity to present your case in mitigation. If you have questions directly of the board or about any specific policies, rules, or regulations, you can direct that to me. I'm the board's attorney. So feel free to contact me directly, and you can reach out to Ms. Hagner or Mr. Aronson, and they can give you my contact information.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll turn it over to the board to see if they have any questions based on your proffer. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Praley, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Provins was served.
Okay. Who she signed for it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I will discuss that with her. Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Is there anything you all would like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and a decision? Nope. Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to impose as far as the guidelines for your first offense, $350 per account plus any court costs. or administrative cost at this point. And I ask for a second on that motion.
I second the motion.
The motion is seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All right, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're excused. Next case being called in, Sport Liquors, DSSY Inc., Dong Suk Nam President, Yong Tae Min Vice President, Wan Jong Chow Clerk, Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, Detective Sapita, number 1239, Detective Mountcastle, 1155. The inspector is Sean Ralston. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license with Sunday privileges located at 1628 Annapolis Road, Odenton, Maryland. There is a restriction on this license. It's all employees who sell alcoholic beverages must be certified in a state-approved awareness course within 30 days of hire. The counts are: 1, violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-716-771 by Detective Mountcastle, 1155, Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Sapita, number 1239. The incident dated May 14th of 2022. Violation 2 is a violation of the Alcoholic Beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland. Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverage to an individual under the age of 21. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 722-716-771 by Detective Mountcastle, 1155, Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Sapita, 1239. An incident is dated May 14th of 2022. Okay, anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hands.
All three of them should be under Peter.
Okay.
If you give him a minute.
We have video.
Asking
There we go. Yep.
Okay, there you go. All right, I'm going to ask everyone to raise their right hands, please. Thank you. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please, I'm going to start with the detectives. Give us your name and addresses, please.
My name is Detectives.
No, wait 1 second, please. Detectives, go ahead.
Detective James Mountcastle, ID 1155, Anne Arundel County Police, currently assigned to Criminal Investigation Division.
Thank you.
Detective Thomas Middleton, ID 1061, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Detective Charles Sapeta, Western District, Anne Arundel County Police.
Thank you. Okay.
My name is Wan Jung Jo, 12015 Eagle Road, Court, Silver Spring, Maryland, 20902. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dong Sung Nam, 7865 Fort Capitol Drive, Elkridge, Maryland, 21075.
Young Tae Min, 1135 Carbondale Way, Cambridge, Maryland, 21054.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you. Counsel, could you please give us your name and address for the record too before we begin? Sorry, we didn't catch on there.
Thank you. Peter A. Previs, Prevas, Previs and Previs, 309 North Charles Street, Suite 200, Baltimore, Maryland, 21201 on behalf of the licensees.
All right, thank you, Mr. Previs. Detective, if you could read the statement of facts into the record for us, please.
Detective Mountcastle. On 5/14/2022 at approximately 20-25 hours, Detective Sapeta, 1239, Detective Middleton, 1061, and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 20 years of age, subject to enter Fort Liquors located at 1628 Annapolis Road, Odenton, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store and picked out a 12-pack of Miller Lite beer and a Fireball miniature and took it to the front for the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification at this time. The confidential source exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us. I know through my training, knowledge, experience that Miller Lite beer and Fireball whiskey are alcoholic beverages. Detective Cepeda, Detective Middleton, and I entered the store and identified ourselves as police officers and identified the clerk as Juan, middle name of Joong, last name Cho, Cho, with a date of birth of 12/20/59 via his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Cho was upset and stated I asked him for his ID as he was walking out the door. The CS had advised us he was walking out the door when the clerk yelled at him, "You have ID." The sale was already completed and the CS was exiting the store when the clerk asked for identification. It is unknown how long the clerk has been working at the store or if he had any alcohol awareness training. A photograph was taken of Mr. Cho and via his identification. A photograph was taken of the Miller Lite beer and the Fireball whiskey, and it was then destroyed. A copy of the Anne Arundel County liquor license was taken, and a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board.
All right, thank you, Detective. Mr. Priebus, do you have any questions of the detective based on that statement of facts?
Just one brief question. Detective, I know that you gentlemen have been doing this for a very long time and you know what you're doing, but can you confirm that the confidential source was in fact under 21 when this?
Yes, we have a certified copy through MBA of the subject. I don't know if you can see that.
I can't, but I trust you. Thank you.
Yes.
No other questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Priebus. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Priebus, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your client's case by way of proper testimony or a combination of both. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will proceed by way of proffer, but everybody's here in case the board has any questions. First of all, I would like to note on the docket that there was a typo, that there is no such Mohesh Kumar Patel as a clerk at this establishment. Mr. Young Tae Min, the vice president, shows up on the number 2 Crazy Crab docket. So I think something got transposed there.
Okay.
Present with me today is the 2 licensees, the president, Dong Suk Nam, and the vice president, Young Tae Min, as well as Mr. Wan Jun Cho, the clerk who served the minor. What happened on this occasion is Mr. Cho is a manager. He's worked at this establishment for 13 years. He's worked here 4 years longer than the current ownership of the premises. He was and is alcohol awareness certified. His alcohol awareness certification expired in July and he recertified in June. He's always been alcohol awareness certified and he understands his obligations under the law. In 13 years at this establishment and in a 30-year career, this is his very first offense of dispensing alcohol to a minor. As the detective indicated, he was extremely upset by what had occurred. As he describes the incident to me, as the minor came in, there were 2 female patrons who were in the establishment. One was asking a bunch of questions about tobacco products that were behind the counter. It appeared to him that she was trying to raise a distraction for the other female with her to commit shoplifting. He was totally distracted with his attention, listening to the one person and trying to watch the other person who he thought was about to shoplift. When the gentleman came in and bought the 12-pack of Miller Lite and the Fireball, he's doing the transaction but not looking at the individual. And finally, he looks up and goes, "Hey, where are your cards?" And the individual indicated, "They're out in the car. I'll go get them." Which he knew at that point it was too late, but not knowing that it was that it was the police and thinking that it was an individual. He was trying to assure that that he had not done the wrong thing. But as you said, it was too late at that point. The transaction had already been completed. With regard to this incident, regard to this premises, there was a prior incident in 2018, a 4.01 violation for which they received a probationary period. There was a second violation that occurred on August 17, 21 with a hearing of October 12, 21, and I represented them in that. At that time of that hearing, Mr. Nam, the owner, advised that he was putting implementing other procedures to make sure that this wouldn't happen again. At the hearing prior to ours on October, there was a Bill's Liquors case who's down the street from him. They used the same point of sale provider as Mr. Nam, and he has implemented, which didn't get into actual use until 2 weeks after this incident. There is now a point of sale system. There's a scanner for the items and there's a scanner for the IDs. And the clerk would not be able to complete the transaction without scanning a proper ID that is not an underage ID. It is now more difficult for a clerk to not ask for cards than to ask for cards. Management has put in a policy if somebody appears to be very, very old and unquestionably beyond the legal age, they could use a manager or owner's ID to scan through, but you would have to override the system. So if the individual comes in currently and doesn't have an ID, they're not going to get anywhere, and the clerk would have to go the extra route of finding somebody else's ID, which they're not going to do. So I understand that the 7-Elevens use this technology for tobacco products, and it is quite successful. They can't ring it up. The cash register stops unless they scan in an appropriate ID. This has been in effect since about the first week of June, and it has been extremely successful and is extremely easy to use. The point of sale people told me that if somebody, or told Mr. Nam that if someone hacks a really good fake ID, it may trick the system, but you have to put in an ID and it has to read that the person is 21. With that said, we understand that we had a violation not so long ago, but they have taken active steps to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we now have that system in place, and we would invite the detectives to visit the premises to see how this works, to know that they are actually serious about what I am representing to you, and this would work. With that said, I most respectfully ask that the board consider a fine at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I have no questions. No.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Previs, anything you'd like to add, sir, before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
No, Mr. Presley, I believe I said it all.
All right, thank you. Then we will do just that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just to make the point, I'm glad that you put a system in place, because you've had 2 violations almost within a year. Actually, within a year, 8/17/2021, as you had mentioned. So glad that has happened. In addition to that, moving forward, hopefully that scanner system is going to work. And I'm just going to impose a fine at this point, as you had suggested. And I'm going to impose a fine of $600 per count, because the reason for that is you've had 3 violations literally in the last 4 years. And I'll ask for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
The motion is seconded. Any other discussion on that? That's $600 per count plus court costs. Seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. You're excused. Next case, General's Wine and Spirits, General Wine and Spirits LLC. Ralph Sacker, member. Cynthia Quick, member. Aaron Iva McDonald, clerk. Tina Serio, manager. Detective Sapita, 1239. Detective White, Sergeant White, excuse me, 1329. Detective T. Middleton, 1061. And the inspector is Donald Morris.
Oh, jeez.
I think that's Liam Benton, actually, is the inspector. It's a Class B license, beer, wine, and liquor, dancing, growlers, and Sunday license, 1355 Generals Highway, Brownsville, Maryland, 21032. There's no restrictions on the license. The violations are as follows: a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a minors. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-719984 by Detective Sapita, number 1239, Detective Middleton, number 1061, and Sergeant White, number 1329. Incident dated June 7th of 2022. Second violation of the alcoholic beverages titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcohol beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-719984 by Detective Sapita, 1239, and Detective Middleton, 1061, and Sergeant White, number 1329. The incident is also dated June 7th of 2022. Anyone wishing to testify for or against?
Before you go there, Christina, is that Cynthia with you?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, yeah, I just sent you an email because I saw that she was on and then she disappeared. I was panicking.
Yeah.
So
We
she's
figured
with
it would
you.
probably, because we were together, we figured it would probably be easier.
Okay,
to do a
perfect.
one answer.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. All right, please raise your right hand. Detectives, your video's off. Oh, I'm sorry. I got you. You're good. Detective Sapitas is off. That's all. Do you solemnly declare excuse me, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask everyone to give us their name and address for the record. We'll start with the detectives.
Detective Thomas Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, assigned to West Coast.
Detective Charles Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
Very good. Thank you, Detective. Okay, Christina, would you like?
Yes, Christina Serio. My address is 1708 Selma Avenue, Halefort, Maryland, 21227.
Thank you.
Cindy Quick, 1308 River Road, Crownsville, Maryland, 21032.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Praley, I believe that's all, sir.
All right, thank you, Inspector Harris. Detective, could you please give us your statement of facts for the record?
Okay. Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police. This incident occurred on June 7th of this year, 2022. It was approximately 8:40 p.m. Detective Cepeda, Sergeant White, and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 20 years of age, to enter the General's Wine and Spirits at 1355 General's Highway. It's in Crownsville, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store, picked out a 6-pack of Heineken beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Heineken beer. The clerk did not ask for any identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us. I know through my training, knowledge, experience that Heineken beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Miss Eva Aaron McDonald, born in 6/6 of 85 via her Maryland driver's license. Miss McDonald was upset and stated, "I wasn't paying attention. I usually card everyone." She advised that she's been working there since November of 2021 and has had the alcohol awareness training. The store was not busy and there was one other customer inside. A photograph was taken of McDonald and her identification. Photograph was taken of the Heineken beer and it was destroyed. Photograph was taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license hanging on the wall. And then a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. That would be our statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Detective. Christina or Cynthia, this is your opportunity to ask questions of the detective based on that statement of facts. Do either of you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions based on the statement?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll turn it over to you, Christina, and Cynthia. It's your opportunity to present your case to the board. Go ahead and do so in mitigation, and then we'll see if the board has any questions. Okay?
Sure, absolutely. Just first and foremost, I definitely, obviously want to apologize that we are here right now, especially because this is our second offense in such a short time. It is not something that either of us take lightly. All of my employees, anyone who is register trained knows how important it is to card, the individuals. I'm a true believer in the fact that, we definitely messed up. That's why we don't have a lawyer with us at this time, because there's no going around the unfortunate circumstances that we're in right now. I have ever since then, I've had every single employee of mine recertified. If there was even close to a lapse, anyone new had been certified. It's not a great excuse, but Aaron had just recently started the register training. I train everyone basically on the floor and things like that before I bring anyone onto the register, so they have a extensive knowledge of what we do. Like I said, it's unfortunately not an excuse. I do, ever since this, I have implemented anyone at basically card everyone that you don't know on a personal level. Our liquor POS system allows us to scan IDs, and it does give us the okay and the correct dates and stuff like that, to go ahead, green light basically, if they are 21 or older. I've also implemented anyone who is trained on the register. I have a certified letter that they have to read and sign, and they know that if anything, if they're caught again, they will be immediately terminated. There's no way around this. Unfortunately, I've been doing this for 15 years now. I've been in the business, and I've been tested multiple times at my old establishment. And then we have a plaque from 2019 at General's stating that we did comply. We had been tested and we did comply, but that really doesn't do much for us at this current moment. But I just want the board to know that it's not something that I take lightly, and hopefully you won't ever see my face again.
That's what we're hoping for. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
It's all straight.
I hate to say that's a good thing, but anyway, I have no questions at this point.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
All right. Do you two have anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay.
No,
All right.
thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Sure.
How many employees do you have?
I have a total of 6 right now.
6 a total,
including myself.
Okay, sure. All right. In lieu of this incident, obviously it's a serious violation. I'm going to impose a fine of $350 per account and add in costs, if you will. Then I ask for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
The motion is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're excused. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. Next case will be H&B Fuller Wine and Spirits. Howard Fuller, owner. Karen Myers, clerk. Detective T. Middleton, number 1061. Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. The inspector is Jeray Slocum. This is a Class A establishment with beer, wine, and liquor and Sunday license privileges. 710 Bestgate Road, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. There are no restrictions on this license. The violations are as follows. Violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4-01, little a, minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-721-300 by Detective Middleton and Detective Mountcastle, number 1155. The incident dated June 16th. A violation of the alcoholic beverages 1, Title 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304. Selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individuals under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 22-721-300 by Detective Mountcastle, 1155, Detective Middleton, 1061. This incident is dated also June 16th, 2022. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hands. All right. Before I do that, Mr. Fuller, I don't see Mr. Fuller. Anybody?
No, he did not register. He is not in the not one of the attendees. I spoke to him this morning, and I believe Mrs. Hagner did call and speak to him this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Ms. Hagner so generously offered to call him this afternoon right before our meeting started. And my understanding is she offered him the opportunity to postpone the matter, to which he replied that he does not do computers, but did not have a formal request for a postponement issued with this board. Therefore, it's my position and my advice to the board that he has failed to appear and the board can proceed forward and adjudicate this claim without his presence. Is that correct, Ms. Hagner?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and swear the officers in so they can read their statements. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please state your name and address for the record, detectives.
All right, Detective Mountcastle, Anne Arundel County Police. My ID number is 1155. Currently assigned to Criminal Investigation Division.
Thank you.
Detective Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, ID 1061, assigned to Western District.
Thank you. Mr. Praley.
All right, thank you, Inspector Harris. Detectives, I hate to make you do it since the respondent and the licensee hasn't shown up, but since this is a virtual hearing, we need to establish the record. Do you mind reading your statement of facts, please?
No problem, sir. On 6/16/2022 at approximately 2015 hours, Detective Middleton, 1061, and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 20 years of age, subject to enter the H&B Fuller Wine and Spirits located at 710 Bestgate Road, Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the store and picked out an 18-pack of Bud Light beer and took it to the front counter. The confidential source was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Bud Light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. The confidential source exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience, the Bud Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, and identified the clerk as K-Ron Myers, date of birth of 1/28/72, via his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Myers was visibly upset and became angry, stating, "You sent that guy in here with a beard on his face." A photograph was taken of Myers and identification and are attached to the report. A photograph was taken of the Bud Light and then it was destroyed. A photograph was taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license that was on the counter behind the cash register. Myers started clapping his hands as we exited the store in front of another patron that was standing at the register. showing aggressiveness. A copy of the report will be forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Police Report Liquor Board, and it was.
One thing to add, just for the record, the CS was verified through MBA records, so we do have a copy of that record to certify that he was under the age of 21.
All right, thank you, detectives. Normally, we would have the licensee ask questions, but because the licensee has refused to appear, I'll turn it over to the chairman to see if he has any questions. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I do. Did the confidential source indeed have a beard?
Yes.
Is that something that's a common occurrence?
It happens sometimes. We've used other sources with beards before too.
All right. First time it's come up, and so interesting. And what do you think? What's the meaning of the clapping of the hands, in your opinion?
I would say he was just angry that he didn't card the young lad, and
so you think he's clapping because you're leaving, or?
Well, it's there's always, you never know what you're going to get when you go into that establishment when they violate. So it's normally angry and aggressive towards us. Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, they answered the question I was going to ask, the same question in reference to the clapping of the hand and aggressiveness.
All right, Commissioner Snoops.
No other question.
Commissioner Snoops, any additional questions?
No additional questions.
All right. Well, we'll turn it over to the board for a decision here, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm just curious about the mechanics of the procedure here. This is a very serious offense. It's his fourth in the last 5 years. Actually, it's the second this year. So obviously there's a disregard, if you will, for the whole selling to minors, or something's not working right in this location. So if we impose a fine, or what happens? Do you know? I mean, he's going to pay it, but I mean, what's the procedure here since he's not here? How do
I think that we've established for the record that he was, in fact, number one, issued an official summons. He was served with that. Number two, he received 2 phone calls today from the board's administration, one from Mr. Aronson earlier today, and Ms. Hagner called directly before the hearing commenced tonight. So he's been placed on notice. So I don't think that there's going to be an appellate argument that he wasn't, in fact, provided with adequate notice. Okay. So my take and my advice to the board is that you can adjudicate it as if he was present. You just don't have the opportunity to ask the licensee questions about the set of circumstances leading to this violation. So if the board is inclined to issue a fine, ultimately, the licensee could attempt to appeal it, but whether that happens or not, that's left to be seen. So it'll be just as if the procedure is just as if he was present.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, due to the seriousness of 4 counts in the last 5 years, I'm going to impose a fine of $1,250 per count, including that doesn't include court costs, but in addition to court costs. So I'm looking for a second on that motion.
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion is seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, I know it seems to be high, but 4 times in 5 years. Anyway, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, and I believe that's the last one, Chairman.
Okay, that concludes the hearing for August 16th, 2022. The hearing is now adjourned.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just one thing. Jimmy, I do need to make a correction as far as Ms. Prevens, Mary.
Provence.
Yes. Mr. Zin Lin, who was the vice president, signed on her behalf, but she was notified. So
Okay,
that
gotcha.
was my
Gotcha.
mistake. Okay.
Thank you. No, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody, anything else? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, the hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.